morning.
Morning.
Everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sometimes I speak loud and get excited, just like you saw in the video. So I apologize if I speak too loud. Just let me know. You can kind of give me the whole little shh. Get down. Pastor, like you were talking about, Christmas is one of my favorite times of year as well. I'm a Capricorn. My birthday's on Christmas. So if any of you guys thought about getting me a Christmas gift for this year, you can just come down, bring it to the church, and we'll donate it this year. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Please give a round of applause for Pastor Alton and Olga, please, for bringing me in. It's just so awesome. It's so great to meet you guys today. Had a couple conversations with Pastor Alton about who am I, and because since I've retired from the NFL for the past 4 years, been asked to speak from here to China to Jamaica to Africa, and even Vacaville. This is my first time speaking in Vacaville. So, I mean, that's a great list, right? It took a little while, so I don't know what took you guys so long. I've been wanting to speak since 2012, but that's neither here nor there. But as we had a conversation and you were talking about who am I? Who am I? I think that's probably the easiest question to ask, but hardest answer to give. So, I talk fast. I speak quick. Sometimes I can't even remember what I say. So if there's something that I say, you might want to pull out a pen, paper, pad. We could talk about it at the end. We could talk about it during the Q&A aspect. And other than that, if you guys are ready, can we go? Can we start?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm from the football world. So I'm going to say, are we ready? And I need you to say, yeah. And I'm going to say, are we ready? And I need you to say, yeah. I'm going to say, how you feel? And you got to say, good. I'm going to say, how you feel? You got to say, good. And I'm going to say, breakdown. And then we're just going to clap.
All right.
Anybody opposed to that? No. We good? Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple people over here that are ready. There's a couple people over here that maybe they didn't have their coffee yet. So are we ready?
Yeah.
That was good. But it's going to be a little faster. I'm going to say, are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
How you feel?
Good.
How you feel?
Good.
How you feel?
Good.
Breakdown. All right, we're going to do that breakdown again. That's a little off. No, it's just one clap. It's just one clap. Just one clap. At the same time. At the same time. Are we ready?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
How we feel?
Good.
How we feel?
Good.
I see. I'm right there with you. I'm going to say, are we ready? And then we're going to have a clap.
How do you get it ready?
Yep. Okay. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
How you feel?
Good.
How you feel?
Good.
Breakdown. There it is. All right. It's a little early. I get it. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. I'm going to talk about who am I. I'm going to ask you, who are you? And then we're going to get out of here. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So I was born Fort Riley, Kansas in 1984. My mother and father got together. You know how that goes. All of a sudden, then I come out the womb and I'm thinking I'm big, bad, great. We live all over the country, and then finally find ourselves here in Vacaville, California. We live with my grandparents, right across the street from Cooper School. Does anybody know where that is?
Oh, yeah.
Right at Cooper School. I went to Elmira, then I go to Cooper, and then I'm getting in trouble. So my mom said, you know what, it's time for you to go live with your dad. So I thought that was gonna be cool. So I get on the plane, travel from Sacramento all the way to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Lived with my dad for about a year, and I'm like, wait a minute, this wasn't part of the deal. I didn't know that I was going to have to do this. So as I lived with my father, I was like, all right, when do I get to go back and live with my mom? So third grade comes around, I moved from North Carolina, come back all the way to Vacaville, California, and we lived on the other side of the town, right next to Vaca High near Alamo Drive. Lived there. Third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, I go to Alamo Elementary School. And this is going to be very important for the young youth that we have in this group. Any middle school kids in the room? Elementary school kids in the room? All right, good. So here we go. So I'm at I'm at Alamo Elementary School, and I thought that I figured this thing out, that I was going to play sports. I was going to play sports my whole entire life. I didn't have to be a good citizen. I didn't have to do anything else in life. Thought that just because you play sports good enough that all of a sudden life is great and you don't have to be a good human being. Until my mom goes to sixth grade parent-teacher conference one day, and my sixth grade teacher said, listen, by the time your son's 16, because of the way he's acting, he's going to end up in a gang. He's going to be the leader of a gang. He's going to sell drugs. And he'll probably end up dead.
That's my Thomas.
All right? I Thomas. So, at that moment, I made a conscious decision and a choice and an understanding that I never had at 12 years old. I'm 31 years old now. And at 12 years old, I had that first aha moment, we'll call it. And that aha moment was, you don't just represent yourself, you represent your family.
Come on. That's right.
You don't just represent yourself, you represent your family.
That's good.
And now let me take it into the spiritual world. You don't just represent yourself, you represent the God you serve.
That's good.
Okay? So, if God wants to brag on you, you need to get a chance, opportunity to brag on him. So now we come back, and so in 6th grade, that I finally looked my mom in the eyes, and I looked this woman in the eyes who I just, I adore so much. And I look at her, she goes, you know what? I'm trying as hard as I can. And if you have kids, you want 2 things for them. For them to be healthy, them to be happy. And if you're a child, and you look at your parents, you want them to understand one thing. I'll never shame you. As a kid, you never want to shame your parents, your last name. That's the 2 sides of it. So I looked at her that day and I said, Mom, you know what? I got it. You might have the same tears. Matter of fact, I hope you do. But one day, you're going to have those same tears, but they're going to be of joy.
Good. It's good. It's good, Tom.
Same thing. Tears can mean one thing over here and a completely opposite thing over here. Mom, you're going to have them. I'm going to promise you you're going to have them. So that's 6th grade. Now, how do you move on from something where somebody told you what you can't be? Right? So write this down. Live to your expectations and not your limitations. Live up to your expectations and not limitations. Because at 12 years old, I was obviously already given a limitation. This is what you're going to be. You got 4 years to live. So if somebody told you that you had 4 years to live, what are you going to do with your time? I figured out how not to do it. But let me try something completely opposite so I can figure out what it would look like and what I could do if I did it opposite. Because one of us is going to be a liar and one of us is going to be truth. The devil's going to be a lie.
That's right.
And God's going to be truth.
That's right.
So my 6th grade teacher's going to be a lie or he's going to be truth. So 7th grade, 8th grade, I finally figured it out and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to attach myself to something bigger and larger than myself. I want to make sure that my mom smiles. I want to make sure that people in the community can respect me. And I want to make sure that I can hold my head up high. That when you see me, you're not just going to see a color and say, oh, this half black, half white kid acts this way. He's a detriment to society. He doesn't know how to pull up his pants and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Which, if any of us are watching the news, I think that it's extremely important to understand that one of the biggest things you can do is be respectful.
That's right.
To your parents,
Yes.
to your teachers,
Yes.
to the law enforcement.
Come on.
Because I think half of this stuff wouldn't even be in existence if somebody would just look and say, okay, look, one of us is wrong, we'll figure it out later, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's good.
So, in 7th grade, 8th grade, I learned that. And I learned it because of the people who I was hanging out with. Because it's easier for 5 people who act different than I do, for me to act like them, than it is for me to be by myself and get 4 people to turn in, try and be like me. Everybody understands that birds of a feather what?
Flock
Together.
Birds of a feather what?
Flock together.
Okay, all right. So I had to all of a sudden pick myself up out of the situation from the friends that I was hanging out with, and I had to move outside of my comfort zone. Write this down. Nothing good grows from a comfort zone.
Good.
Wow. I love penny.
Nothing good grows from a comfort zone. So Inside of saying that in 7th and 8th grade, I started to watch people who were doing it right. My mom would always say, why can't you get good grades like him? Or her, or him, or her. So I just said, well, my mom might be right. Let me watch what he and she do.
Right.
He and she, after school, they don't just go and play and hang out with friends like I was doing. They would go home and they would do their homework first.
Oh, there we go.
So all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, so you do what you gotta do first, so then you can do what you wanna do.
Exactly.
Right.
That's it.
Now let me tell you another story. I'm 31 years old and I never had a job in my life. But I've been getting paid since I was 23.
Wow.
Actually, that's a lie.
You-
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
I did. I had a job at the Christmas tree lawn, and I got fired. But I'm gonna tell you the reason why I got fired. Hold on now. I didn't get fired because I did anything wrong. Mom, I got the microphone. It's not time. Okay, so next week is yours. Pastor, can you talk to her about next week coming back? So the whole thing about this, I got fired. Okay, I did. But the reason why I got fired because I had to tell the Christmas tree lot owner that I had homework and I had to go home. Right, so he fired me because I couldn't stay and make the money. So that's why I got fired. That's cool, right? All right, so it's fine. See?
You're a good boy.
All right, so 7th and 8th grade, I'm starting to observe and watch my friends. I'm sitting there and seeing how they're doing it. I'm watching, okay? They're going to class on time. They're paying attention in class. They're asking questions in class. After school, they're doing their homework. They're getting it done, and then they're playing. All right, because I had it opposite. I was going to class. I thought I could get a good grade by just being in class. Didn't do the homework all the time. After school, I'm like, man, I've been in school doing schoolwork all day long. Why don't I sit there and now I get a chance to play and then I'll do my homework later? It doesn't work out.
That's right.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. So I started to do my homework first, and then I found out that maybe, you know what, I don't get to play as much as I like to, but at the same time, I was starting to get better grades. And by better grades, I mean a 2.3. That was good for me. Now, all of a sudden, 9th grade comes around, and I start to attach myself to something even bigger and better. Because teamwork makes the what?
Dream work.
Teamwork makes the what?
Dream work.
So all of a sudden, I attach myself to this game of football. I got a structure. I got a vision. I got people who care. People around me, coaches, teachers. And my mom calls me one day from I'm in the room playing video games. I'm playing Madden at the time. I'm playing, and all of a sudden I hear that knock, or they hear that knock on the door. Do, 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 do. That's the mailman. Everybody knows that this weekend is going to be report card weekend, so I better play as much video games as I can because I know how this works. Usually I'm going to be grounded. And season my house meant see you later. See you later TV, see you later video games, see you later everything.
I like that.
So I knew that it was getting ready to be see you later time. So I'm there playing as long as I can. Thomas, come here. Thomas, come here. Playing. I'm like, man, this is going to be the last play. It's got to be a touchdown. Play it. I finally go, okay, yes, Mom. I walk into the kitchen where she was looking out, and I go, yes, Mom. And I'm looking right there, and she goes, whose report card is this? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it says mine. But maybe I'm thinking, well, if it's somebody else's report card, I get a couple extra days to play video games and hang out. So I hope it's somebody else's. And she goes, well, what's the grades? And I was like, 3 A's and 3 B's. So you want to talk about transformation. And in the Bible, one of the greatest people in the Bible, whose name is Paul, used to be Saul. And if you understand the Bible, you understand that who he was isn't who he ended up being. So a transformation can happen at any given moment when you make a choice and a decision. So when you walk out of here, you need to walk out of here differently
Yeah.
than when you walked in.
Yes.
Because I don't think there's any people in this church who set up and do the meetings and spend as much time and study as much as they can so that you walk in here the same way every time.
Yes. That's good.
Because every single person in here, myself included, I don't look like where I've been.
It's good.
And I don't look like where I came from. But I am who I am.
That's it.
And every single person in here is the same way. So in 9th grade, after I get that, my mom tells me this thing. She says, look, well, now you set the bar. You set the standard. And now this is what you have to do. And I said, I got to do it again? I did it once. I thought that was good. Like, what do you mean? Just one time. See, if you do something one time in a row, it's called luck. If you do it forever, it's called consistency.
Go.
So that's the whole thing about that. I don't collect anything else other than days. So after I sat there and I got that, she said, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. Great. Okay. Now all of a sudden, here's where the football part comes in. Because it's who am I? I'm a football player. 41 at USC, 41 at Vacaville High, 53 at the Jaguars, 93 at the Buffalo Bills, 56 with the Carolina Panthers. That's who I am. So I'm 41 on the football field, and I'm starting to get offers and recruiting letters, and everything's happening. And all this dream and this vision is coming to pass. Everything that I've ever wanted is about to happen. Because I told my mom we're going to have tears of joy and not tears of sorrow. So I'm getting recruited, and coaches are coming through, and I'm playing games, and I'm doing well, and life is all of a sudden changed. But as soon as something happens good, all of a sudden we start to get happy. As soon as something good happens, we start to think that we can coast. That's called circumstantial joy. And the Bible talks about agape love, which is what? Everlasting, unconditional love. So, all of a sudden, one day I'm a junior in high school, 17 years old at the time, and an LSU coach comes and talks to Fred Jones in his office, and he says, Thomas, we think you can play Division I football. You're going to make it. And again, my dream from the time I was a little itty boy and I went to the Oakland A's baseball game was to be a professional athlete. I said, Mom, I want to do that. I want to be on a field where people stop what they're doing in their life and they come watch me and my teammates. I want to do that. So after that, I left Coach Jones' office, who was the high school coach at the time, and I walked down the hallway and somebody comes to me and they said, why did LSU come to see you? This is a kid my age, my friend. He said, you ain't good enough to play Division I football. So at that moment, he tried to steal my dream. And I know one thing about us, every single person that walks on this earth, there's something we're afraid of, and there's something that we want. I'm not the only person in this room who's ever had a dream. I'm not the only person in this room who's ever had somebody try and take the dream. And I bet I'm not the only person in this world and in this room who has wanted to accomplish something more than what you've accomplished so far in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're this tall, 8 or 80. There's always something else that you can do. So at that moment, I started to develop this mindset of, okay, if nobody's going to believe me, then I'm going to believe myself. And I only need one person besides me to believe in my dream, my vision, my goal. And that is the man who created me. The spirit that created me. The God who created me. And so write this down. Ask, seek, knock. And I'm coming back to it. But ask, seek, and knock. So all of a sudden I go, I got it. If I got to be by myself because I believe in me and God put this vision inside of me that this has got to come to pass. And this has got to come alive. So I'm going to keep on pushing forward. Keep on pushing forward. Because it doesn't matter what human beings or man says. It only matters what God says. Amen. So 11th grade comes by, 12th grade, I graduate high school, keep going to scholarship, going to play at USC. It's great. I made good on that promise to my mom. When I graduated high school, she whispered in my ear, she said, we made it. I said, yes, we did. And I saw the same tears, but they were tears of joy this time. Right. So all of a sudden, I'm 18 years old, 2 years past my 6th grade teacher when he told me, he turned out to be the liar.
Come on.
That's right.
That's good.
So just because man says something doesn't mean that man is right.
Yeah.
Right? The word says that he said, okay, that everything that God says is truth, and man will lie.
Yes.
That has to come to pass too. So I go off to USC, I'm playing football there, I almost quit there. And there's a reason why I'm skipping through this. But I almost quit there. I wanted to come home. We win a national championship. We win another national championship. We lost a national championship. We won a Rose Bowl. And anyways, at the end of my college career, I only lost 6 games in 5 years. So when you play 13 in a year. So I get drafted in 2008, and that was the highlight of my life. Jacksonville Jaguars called me with the 155th pick overall and said, Thomas, we want you to come play for us. Has anybody ever in this room, you don't have to show your hands, but just think about it. Have you ever accomplished something that maybe even you didn't think you could accomplish? Because they told me that it was less than 1%. Less than 1% go from high school and play professional sports. And I've never been in that percentile ever, in anything. And so when they called me April 28, 2008, called me, sitting there with my family, we made it. we made it. But again, you got to also understand that sometimes when you make it to the place that you've always wanted to be, there's going to be new devils and new levels.
That's true.
So we have to keep on going, because what got you there isn't going to keep you there. Because they say talent what gets you in the room, and character is what keeps you there.
That's good.
So that's what we have to understand. So I played 5 years in the NFL, and I'm bouncing around from team to team to team to team, because not everybody who's playing in the NFL is a trillionaire. Not everybody in the NFL is just Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Reggie Bush, Brett Favre, all of these other athletes. You're not that way. There's a couple guys at the bottom of the roster who have to fly around from place to place and team to team and sleep out of their suitcase for 3, 4, 5, and 6 months. I was one of those people. But it's all right, because the dream is much, much more than the suffering and the persecution. And here's something else too that just hit me in the spirit to tell you to write down, is that your vision of success must be far greater than your fear of failure. I'll repeat it. Your vision of success must be far greater than your fear of failure. So I'm bouncing around from team to team. I start in Jacksonville. I go to New England, go from New England to Buffalo, from Buffalo to Carolina. I'm starting. 4th year, I'm starting. I'm on the TV screen. Mama can watch me every weekend. We're good. Contract year's up next year. My agent telling me, you know what? You might sign for $1, 2, 3, 4, $5 million. You mean it actually worked? I didn't really think I was going to get this far. It actually happened? Until October 30th, 2011, we're playing the Minnesota Vikings. First quarter, I had 4 tackles. The first series, the second quarter, I ran into my own teammate, laid there on the ground. I couldn't move. Hands couldn't move them, feet couldn't move them. And at that moment, the only thing I could think about was my mom and can I work? Can I move again? Fast forward a year later, I was at a football. Just like that. The dream that you've always had, the vision that you've always wanted, it enters into your heart, and you can't do it anymore. So, July of 2012, that's when it really happened. Where the question that you asked at the very beginning in the series that this whole entire church is working on, the who am I? I walked onto the football field a professional athlete, and I left that day, and I went to sleep that night a former professional athlete. So the question of who am I resonates with me big time. Because on that day, in 2012, someone basically told me that I had to try to live and continue to exist, but I couldn't breathe to do it. Pastor and I were talking backstage, and I was saying, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow and your wife wasn't beside you and your 4 beautiful children weren't there? Nothing happened to them. How would you continue to live? Every single one of us tonight, we're going to go to sleep. We're going to wake up tomorrow, God willing. But we got to continue to live. But how would you live and do that if you couldn't continue to do what you did Friday, Thursday, Wednesday? So I come back and I ask the question of who am I? Who am I? Who am I? That's a real question. I can't say that I'm a football player because everything past my whole entire life was put into what I did. What I did was one thing. Who I am is forever. You'll always be who you are. But there's a time and a season for what you do. But as we constantly try and say, oh, I'm this person. Let me ask you another question. If you lost everything you owned, how much would you be worth? That one didn't resonate like I thought it was going to. I mean, in my mind, I was thinking I was genius. I was like, who's gonna get him? So maybe I gotta ask it in another way. You ever feel that way, right? You're like, man, this is get him. Ooh, this is gonna be good. Yeah. But seriously, think about that. If you lost everything you're worth, the house you live in, the car you drive, the family you have, what would you be worth? You think about the status. In our world today, we think about status. We grab our phone and we'll tell you who we are by how many likes we got on Facebook, how many likes we got on Instagram, how many views on Snapchat. But how real and relevant is that? Because just because you got 99 likes and you got 100 likes, does that mean that you're any more? But you have to ask yourself the question, who am I? That's why I love it. I love the scripture. It says, ask, seek, and knock. If you ask, you will be given the answer. If you seek it, you'll find it. And if you knock, the door will be open.
Amen.
But I'm going to tell you the hardest question I had to ask myself first. God, who am I? So 2 days after I retired, I went to my church in LA, Porter Ranch, and Pastor Dudley's the pastor there, and he's sitting up at the front. And as I walk in, the door's open, and it's just almost very similar to this right here. And the door's open, I'm walking through, and I hear Amazing Grace, and I've never heard this part of the song before. And this is what gave me hope, that I lost what I thought I was. But sometimes you have to lose what's good in order to attract what's great.
That's good.
So I walk in the door, and I hear, my chains are gone, and now I'm free. How are you telling me the greatest thing that ever happened to me were my chains? And now I'm free? They say you find out who you are when you let go of who you think you are. You find out who you are when you let go of who you think you are. So I sit down in church and God's telling me, he says, son. And it's great when God calls you son. He says, son, you thought football was your purpose, but it was just your passion to show you your purpose.
Yeah.
He said, I only used to have 3 or 4 months to work with you before because you were so involved and wrapped up in football. But now you don't have it, which means I get 12 months a year to work with you. But the thing that I had to do, and it's the hardest thing to do, is to surrender and say, God, who am I? Why did you create me? What am I doing here? If you really, really, really want to know who you are, you've got to ask the Creator. And I'm not telling people what to believe in. You believe in what you believe in. But that, what you believe in, ask. You know, the funniest thing, I go to Best Buy a lot and I get things and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Has anybody ever got something from Best Buy and you had to take it back because it didn't work? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, so you go to the counter over there, they call it the Geek Squad, right? So you go back and you're like, hey, I got this iPod. Here's the iPod and it's not working. And someone's like, well, did you plug it in? And you get people like, no, I didn't. Right? I'm like, oh, right? Did it go in water? Yeah, it did. Well, it's not gonna work. But I love it when somebody comes and they bring a TV or a computer or something and they hand it to the guy and they say, fix it. You're like, I didn't make it. Like, how can I fix it? He's like, yeah, but you work here. You're supposed to tell me what's wrong with it and how to fix it. And he's like, well, I mean, I can take it to the back and we'll hold on to it for a couple of days. Like, but you're supposed to fix it. And I always think to myself, why don't you call the people who made it? So what I'm challenging every single person in this room today, why don't you ask the person who made you?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Come on.
If you were created for a specific, purposeful reason, why don't you ask?
Yeah.
And I think that most of us are afraid to ask a truthful question because we're afraid of the truth. So it's easier for me to go over here and ask Pastor, tell me something, because he's going to tell me the truth. I'm not ready for that. Because I think I was put on this earth to be a model, and you telling me that I'm supposed to be, a student driving assistant.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to teach people how to drive, but I'm supposed to be a model. Pastor, I'm supposed to be the next app creator. I'm supposed to create the next Facebook, but you're telling me that I'm supposed to stay over here and just to do this. So ask, seek, and knock. The next part, I challenge every person. Identify your passion. Like I sat there and said, I'm 31 years old and I've been getting paid for 8 years and I've never worked a day in my life. I meant that. Because the whole thing about passion, that's tied into your purpose. Remember, the only reason that I was able to find my true purpose is because I lived my passion. How many of us are waking up day in and day out and going doing the same thing over and over? And we get bored of it ourselves. And the thing about it is we'd rather live a mundane, perpetual life, even if we don't like it, than to step out and live an extraordinary life that we know we love. Because I guarantee you, if they were to take away our paychecks, we probably wouldn't go. See you later. You're right about that. So identify your passion. And the final one. The people that we put on pedestals in this world, understand that you're just as great as them. What do I mean by that? I live in LA, so obviously everybody thinks that there's somebody. They are, but maybe ain't that. So you have these people who set trends, and what they do is cool, so we have to do that. What I do isn't cool because it's not what they're doing. So my self-worth goes here. My value goes down here. But if I told you how crazy, literally, some of these people in LA who we perceive to be the upper echelons, you sit there and be like, they do that? Oh man, I don't really like that. But they just believed in themselves like a lot of us don't. Be your own trailblazer. Pioneer your own path. And understand that we're not supposed to just exist in this life. We're supposed to live.
That's right.
For a short period of time at 27 years old when I stopped playing football, I was headed down that path. I was just existing. I was living so far in the past that I couldn't enjoy the present. I couldn't even look into the future. And my favorite scripture, which identifies that and gave me all the hope in the world, was Jeremiah 29:11. God said, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm you. He said he knows. So as I close and I remind you, ask, seek, and knock. If you're going through something hard right now, ask God. Or have a conversation with yourself. He's going to jump in there. Trust me. But if you're trying to figure out what is it that I'm getting up every day and I'm waking up to do and I'm looking forward to doing and I'm only excited for the Saturdays and Sundays, you got this thing backwards. Because there's only 2 of those days and there's 5 of the other ones. And if you're 12, 13, 50, or 50, or 70, doesn't matter in this room. Nobody said that you have to be a certain age to keep dreaming or start.
That's right.
So if you are younger and you have a dream, pursue it. Find as many yeses as you can. And by yeses, I mean people who tell you, yes, you can. Don't listen to the naysayers and the dream stealers. Find yourself with people who have dreams and aspiration themselves. Because the more people who believe that they can, the more you'll believe it. But if you believe people who aren't, then you won't. You don't get to the end of the road and find out that, oh my gosh, if I only would have tried. One of the proudest moments that I have is that I never have to regret or look in the mirror and say, man, I wonder what I would have turned out and been like if I would have tried in football.
That's good.
I wonder what it would have been like if I would have even tried to go to college. If I only would have been 20, if I could only do 21 over again, and I wish that I could change back the hands of time because I would have done it differently. Now there's things that I wish that I could have done a little bit differently, but as a whole, there's 2 pains in life. The pain of sacrifice and the pain of regret. Only 2. One lasts for a moment and one lasts forever.
That's really good.
That's good.
So, I have a challenge and an encouragement. If you're 10 years old to 50, what is that dream? If you're 51 and up, what dream and what goal do you have that you never explored? And I guarantee you ask this question, God, if I'm still waking up, what do you want me to do? I guarantee you he's going to answer that. He's going to put that dance and that song and that love back in your heart.
That's good. That's good. Good.
And understand that it's not too old. It doesn't matter
Come on.
if you're a mom and you have 3 kids. It doesn't matter if you're a single dad. It doesn't matter if you think it's too late.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you when it's too late. When they're sitting over your grave and they're reading something about you. And they don't even know what you had deep inside of your heart. Live it. It's life. It's supposed to be enjoyed. It's supposed to be loved. And it's supposed to be shared. I see the empty seats in here. And I understand we got stuff to do on Sunday. It's football season. Some people got to watch their fantasy football. But bring more people. I'll tell you, the thing that saved my life, it was the accountability aspect. I had a team, football team. When somebody comes to the huddle, they say, hey, we need you to do your job. We need you to do your job.
That's right.
Hey, I'm counting on you. We need you to do your job. We need you to do your job. I'm counting on you. Oh, I'm counting on you this play. That's the same thing God's doing.
Come on. That's good.
That's the same thing God's doing. I'm counting on you.
Yeah.
I'm counting on you.
Come on.
So the next time I come back here, I don't want to see as many empty seats. You look at somebody and you bring them along, you say, I'm counting on you.
Come on.
Because there's only 2 types of people who should be isolated. People behind bars and people who are no longer existing. We're supposed to do this together. 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 I think, Pastor, you had something that you wanted to do before we go into the question and answers. Pastor's gonna say something, and then we got Q&A if anybody has anything. But like we said, we'll be doing the books in the back and pictures and anything like that.
Can we just give Thomas a great appreciation for him sharing his life? You know, as Thomas was speaking, you know, he shared about his journey. And there's a point in his life where God came front and center. And, you know, Thomas is connected and reestablished his relationship with God. It doesn't matter what happens to Thomas for the rest of his life. He's got a relationship with God, and God's going to be with him. And as he talked about dreams, aspirations, the passion that he has in his heart, and to steer you guys, every one of us, to live for that, there's one thought that came to my mind. If God has put a passion and a dream in your heart, He's ready to cheer you as you pursue those things. And oftentimes we kind of shut God out because we believe, and we're lied to, like he was, that God is not for us. But I can tell you, I've known the Lord for over 30 years. And every single one of us here, I can say without hesitation, God absolutely loves you. He absolutely is for you. And if you hear anything else, it's a lie of the enemy and a lie of your friends. Because all he wants to do is separate you from the God who has created you for companionship and for love and adoration.
Yes.
He loves you deeply. He wants to be a part of your life. He is a cheerer and encourager. Why would he be against you if he put it in you in the first place? We really need to really think about that for a minute. Doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter how much you feel you've failed. And it doesn't matter if you feel like you're down here in the human spectrum. God's hands is always, hey, you know what? I love you. I want to walk with you. I'm here for you. If you need me, I'm here for you. It's always, hey, come on. I want to help you to get to that place. So as Thomas talked about, it's not walking in, walking out the same. I want to give a moment that those of you who have not really connected with God, say, you know what, Lord, I want a relationship with you. And I want you to understand something. It's not going to be perfect in the beginning. It's not about being perfect. It's not about doing everything right. Because if we try to do everything right, we'll never really make it. Thomas, are you perfect?
No, sir. Well, in my eyes, I am.
We'll talk later. I'll let your mama talk to you. Mama, you can tell gently. Well, mama, she's probably perfect in mama's eyes too, right? So I want everybody to just bow your head for a minute. And what I want to talk to you about really is a personal relationship.